Okay, so recently I watched Wonder Woman 1984, which was a DC Comics sequel to the first movie, Wonder Woman. And it shows Diana dealing with her loneliness and being a superhero in the year 1984. And we can also see some of her memories of Steve Trevor and Steve Trevor's mom over the years, although it's been like so long, decades since the first movie was taken in the universe. So if you haven't watched this movie, spoiler alert, you better watch the movie first, unless you're okay with spoilers, but okay, never mind. So in this movie, Diana meets a woman called Barbara Minerva, who is not noticed by anyone. Nobody cares about her. Nobody actually sees her as a person. So Diana, who is very empathic towards Barbara, she becomes a friend to Barbara. And as Barbara sees how good Diana is, she wishes to become someone like Diana. She sees Diana as a role model. And as the story goes on, both of them, Barbara and Diana, they come across this stone called the Dreamstone. They work in the archaeological department, so they found this artifact. It's called the Dreamstone. And the thing about this Dreamstone is it grants one wish to the person who is touching it. And without realizing it, unconsciously, Diana wishes to be reunited with Steve Trevor, while Barbara, on the other hand, wishes to become like Diana. And as time goes on, Diana suddenly comes across Steve Trevor in the body of another person, while Barbara is suddenly noticed by everyone and has somehow attained superhuman strength and agility. And when this is happening, when they're starting to discover and they are inquiring why this happened, because at that time they didn't believe in this Dreamstone, they just thought it was a fake. So we see another character enter, and it's called Max Lord. He owns an oil company that's on the brink of bankruptcy. So he's been spending years finding the Dreamstone because he knows what it is capable of. And he learns that Barbara is in possession of it, and he takes it from her. And what he does is he wishes to become the stone itself. And why he does this is because when you touch the stone and ask for a wish, you can only ask for one. But here's the catch. The Dreamstone will grant you a wish that you desire the most, but at the same time, it will take away something that is the most prized possession of yours. So for Diana, when she wished Steve to come back to life, what happened is she began to lose her powers. She loses her bullet immunity, she loses her superhuman strength, and at the same time, what happens to Barbara is Barbara starts to lose a little bit of her humanity. She starts to become cruel, she starts to become cold, calculating. Unlike the old Barbara, who is very warm and joyful. So what happens is Max Lord is aware of this, so he wishes to become the stone itself. So once he becomes the embodiment of a stone, he can grant one wish to a person, but that allows him to get an infinite amount of returns. For example, if he gives the wish to a person, he can take away whatever he wants. And by doing so, he has made himself exclusive to the rules of the stone, meaning that he can get an infinite amount of wishes as long as he can find a new person who is willing to wish for something else. So how does this dreamstone work is Diana eventually finds out that this stone is made by a god of lies who is also known as the Duke of Deception. So she finds out that this dreamstone is powered by lies and deception. It gives you what you want the most but takes away what you have that is the most prized thing for you. And And ironically, the opposite of this is actually the lasso of truth, which is in Diana's possession, her glowing whip. That's the lasso of truth. So when I was watching this movie, I kind of already could have guessed that this would be the tool that's going to be used as a salvation or the redemption for the chaos that's been caused by this dreamstone. Now, for this dreamstone, we can see it according to the story. There's some references where they give reference to the Indus Valley, to the Mayan Valley, to the Romans, where whenever this stone turns up, it ends in the entire civilization being collapsed. And in 1984, pretty much the whole world has already been connected through uh, various means like TV broadcasts and radio signals. And Max Lord, since he wants more and more, he wants infinite amount of wishes, he eventually finds a way to manipulate satellites that use particles to reach other broadcast devices. So what happens is he is basically touching everybody, and what he does is he asks for them to wish for it, just wish for it. And in doing so, Max Lord, he wishes for health, he wishes for prowess, he wishes for power, authority, he wishes for everything in return for people wishing for what they want. Some of them want $1 million, some of them want Porsches, some of them want their enemy to be killed, which is kind of a very which shows how a person's desires, dark desires, greed can bring collapse to the entire society. Now, talking about the story, what do I feel about the story? My review, my perspective on the story is it is a very good plot. It's very simple. It just shows that greed can make the entire civilization collapse. However, I'll give this story a 6 out of 10 because why is it not a 10 out of 10 is because the story, the plot also depends on how the flow is going, how the flow of the movie is going and the cinematography. Now, for the flow, I think the story was kind of draggy. It's 2.5 hours, but it seemed like it was going on forever and ever. So I guess they could have made it smoother. They could have made smoother transitions. And I felt that it was too draggy at some points. As for the cinematography, there's a catch in it. Now, since this is based on 1984, the cinematography in this film is also based on 1984. So we see these old techniques being used. So if we see Justice League, we see Justice League or Superman versus Batman, we see Wonder Woman flashing from one place to other. It looks very smooth. The transition is very smooth. When she jumps, it looks graceful and threatening at the same time. But in this movie, since they're using the old techniques, it looked a bit weird. Whenever Diana was running, it seems like she's running too slow, but the world is moving so fast. So it is kind of weird. They use old techniques. Even when she uses her whip, the lasso of truth, we can see that they're using old techniques, old CGI on this. So although it is interesting to watch, it is also cringy at the same time. And at the same time, it also affects the plot itself because the flow of story is affected by the cinematography. So for people who like the old Wonder Woman from 1984, they might find it nostalgic because we see some of Wonder Woman's unseen powers. For example, in the first movie, we don't know that Wonder Woman can fly. We don't know that she can use her headband as a weapon. However, in this sequel, we get to see that, and that's actually a replica of the old original 1984 Wonder Woman where she can fly and use her headband. So it's kind of like taking you back. So if you're a fan of the old Wonder Woman, it takes you back towards that point. So it's very good, very nostalgic. But for people who are a fan of the new Wonder Woman, it might seem like a downgrade and might seem like a disappointment. And indeed, across the internet, I'm seeing many comments, many people finding it cringy, many people finding it backward and disappointing when comparing it to the first film. And for me, I find it both interesting and a bit of a disappointment because the first movie was very good, it had a very good plot, but the second movie was kind of draggy. And why it's interesting is because it takes some guts to use the old cinematography in the new film. So I think it was a good technique personally. So it has it has its ups and downs, and that's why I rate it as 6 out of 10. However, it is a movie you should watch. So there are many clues about this. We actually get to see the old Wonder Woman in a different character. Although I won't reveal it, you have to watch it for yourself to find out. We get to see a little bit of Easter eggs here and there. We get to see a few clues, and maybe this might drive DC's next film. As we have seen with Marvel Cinematic Universe, we see the Tesseract, the Infinity Stones. In the same way, DC is taking an approach towards these artifacts like the mother boxes and all that. So we might see a future film with Justice League where all of these artifacts may play a part. So that's all from me now. This is FilmScope, brought to you by SRScope. That's all.